I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
You know I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net, as well as at the front window here at Canada's in downtown Kamloops. I'm your host, Al Graham. Tonight, I am joined by my joint host, Northern Ontario Kim Cooper, and tonight she has a guest that loves to advocate for changes in Canadian drug laws and has been doing so for some time. Plus, she has done it while she's been traveling internationally. But before we learn more, it's time for Kim and I to have a quick chat. What do you think, Kim?
Sounds good to me. Al will check in and see what's going on in the world before we get to tonight's guest. It's been a busy week out there for sure.
Oh, it sure has been. Really, I know. Like when we're doing the Reefer Reporter segment, also here on Lifestyle Radio, there's so much news for us to have to siphon through. But, you know, it's good that it's in the news.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are we touching on tonight?
Well, tonight we've got two items we're going to bring up, and one of them is not very good news whatsoever. It's a very somber moment, and that is the loss of a good friend of ours, Shane King, the other day. Oh, I've got a siren going off here. We lost Shane here recently in an accident while in Mexico, and it's a very sad situation.
It sure is, Al. You know, Shane is a large member of the community. You might want to hit mute, Matt, there, Al. There we go. Shane's been a very prominent member of the community for quite some time. 32-year-old father of four, used to manage and own Vape on the Lake down in the Etobicoke area in southern Ontario, outside Toronto there. Hosted several events over the years, was sponsored many cannabis-related events that have gone in and on and around the Toronto, Ontario area for well over a decade, leaving behind his four children and his wife, of course, Amber. Tragic loss for the community as a whole, for sure. He will be greatly missed. He lost his life while spending time in Mexico, where he takes his family every year over the winter months, due to a tragic car accident that was completely unexpected. He hit a garbage truck and lost his life en route to hospital.
Yes, he did. Yes, and in case some people had known, he had his young son was with him, but his young son is fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
Thank
got,
God
he's slightly injured, but he's going to be fine. No broken bones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in honor of them, they've set up a not YouTube, but a GoFundMe page. Within the 24 hours, they reached their goal. I wasn't able to get back to Kim to see if they've just kept on going with that.
Yeah, they have. They've increased the goal. They raised the amount of the amount that they were going for. They've increased it, and last time I checked, they were just a few $1,000s short of reaching the new founded goal with the increased amount. So it looks like they're going to surpass that once again.
Yeah, and talking about helping out the family, we see the Killing Time Band. They're hosting Music for the King, a celebration of friendship, family, and music that they're holding May the 6th at the Boston Manor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looks like it's going to be a great show with the Killing Time Band. Killing Time Band, of course, stepping up for the King, Music for the King, they're calling it, as they're billing it. Shane did a lot of things with the Killing Time Band, promoting their music and having them at several festivals that he was a part of over the years as well.
Yeah, well, I see the Boston Manor. They say they hold over 300 people in the venue. The last I looked, there was over 300 people on Facebook that said they were going to go. So, yes, it's going to be a packed venue. There's 6 bands in total that are playing that night. And actually, there's a couple there that I know that I've seen play up at Shane's event. The Burn
Yeah.
Fest.
Yeah, great outpouring of support from people that Shane helped out along the way, and he promoted them, and it's great to see them giving back to this man's family in such a wonderful way. It's heartwarming to see that, to know, even with this loss, they're going to be okay. At least they'll get through it.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about the financial burden of it all. That part of it is going to be taken care of for them, and it's off their plate, and that's a fabulous relief for everyone.
Yeah. Music for the King, Sunday, May the 6th from 2 to 8 p.m. They have a Facebook page if you want some more information.
Yeah, for sure. Check them out.
Check them out. Okay, now Health Canada had an announcement the other day where they were talking about the micro grows and the micro cultivation licenses and talking about packaging.
Yeah. There are all kinds of scary warnings out there and saying, this is going to save the children and nothing geared towards kids. And, the packaging is very important element of this as far as they're concerned. Well, we kind of took some stats on that stand and compared them in other markets to see if that holds true. And turns out not so much, eh?
No, there's a Vice article here that goes through all the different warnings that are going to be required on the packaging. All these warnings, I couldn't believe. You look at a bottle of beer. Could you just imagine trying to put all the warnings on a beer bottle?
Yeah.
They should have on it if they require all these warnings. Yeah. Let's see. I'm just going through them here.
The lineup of warnings, you would have to. I don't know how they're going to manage to fit all of this on a small package.
I don't know. Yeah. Normally you say
reading through them, you would think it was more harmful than radiation.
You would think so. you really would. Cannabis can be addictive. Up to half the people who use cannabis on a daily basis have work, social, and health problems from using cannabis.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some of them are just.
Up to 1 in 2 people who use cannabis daily will become addicted.
It's the peaceful bliss.
We chuckle, but it's not
it's
good.
serious,
It's still propaganda. It's showing that our government has not learned. They have not looked at the stats. They are not looking at the data that is available today. They're not taking even, the task force recommendations into the whole evolution of this. They're saying they're doing bits and parts of it and they're putting it on the task force when it suits them. But everything else that they're doing is completely backwards to what the task force suggested. Yeah. But they don't want to recognize that.
Yeah, and they were asked about these. The Leaf News. Solomon Israel or Israel Solomon? Sorry, Israel. I got that backwards one way or the other.
Yeah.
Solomon Israel. There we go. He asked a question about it and said, people can fact check these claims that you're making on them, and the response was back that all this stuff has been researched.
But where are they getting their research? A quick, simple Google search for the facts that they're reiterating on this packaging proves all of the standings that we have, proves that these are incorrect facts that they're putting out there. So it's basically more propaganda. I'd like to know where the hell this research is coming from that they're going by.
I don't know. Well, maybe our guest will be able to answer some of those questions as we go along through the night.
Yeah, let's hope so.
She was there.
I'm sure she'll have some input on it for sure.
All right. At this time, I'd like to welcome the person who described it as someone who loves to advocate for changes in Canadian drug laws and has traveled internationally to do so. We'd like to welcome Lisa Campbell of the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, you're welcome. Hey, we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, when was the last time? I think it must have been over a year ago.
Oh, it had to have been, yeah. Like I know we've talked to you here and there during the roadshow broadcast here on Lifestyle Radio, but we haven't actually had you on the Pace Radio Show. Yeah, I think it's been over a year.
Yeah, it's been about 15 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, it's always good to get caught up. Lots of new things going on out there for sure. Okay, now before I hand you over to Kim on our news thing, there you were at the at this you weren't there, but you were involved in it, right? This government announcement.
I wasn't physically there, but they had a media call, so I was able to call in and report back as Now Magazine. So I started writing for Now Magazine recently. I've done 2 op-eds, front page for them over the last few months. So it was really cool to be on the call and get to ask some serious questions with some of my favorite journalists.
And actually, yeah, we all here at Lifestyle Radio, we're listening to that. It was broadcasted live here on the network. And we all cheered for your question.
Yeah, we were all in our own Skype program and a private chat that wasn't going out on the air, and we heard Lisa Campbell has a question, and everybody's like, yes, Lisa, get him. Come on, Lisa.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I think my question was if you could have multiple microgrow licenses in one location. I don't know if they answered my question. I think they mostly said that you could have a microgrow license as well as a microprocessor license in the same site, which could sell directly to retail.
Yeah, they kind of skirted the answer on that. And I was really kind of dismayed by that, because the question that you asked is what a lot of people in our communities up here are looking at, because people are asking, can we have a communal space where everybody goes and we can all put our little grow up there? Is that cool for one person to run that, right? And that was basically the question that you were asking. And no, they did not give you an answer directly on that, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could still have a co-op model in theory. We just don't know if that can be in the same location with multiple licenses in one kind of warehouse location, maybe subdivided, or, I mean, of course, you can have a cross-Canada co-op. There's so many options for what people can build with the micro licenses.
So if you got, you had a micro grow license and you had a micro processor license with 2 separate licenses, but one company could actually possess both licenses in order to allow them to go really from production to private sale, could they not?
Yeah, that gives you your farm to sale license, right?
Yeah, I think they were saying that micro growers would have to sell to a processor to get to retail, which is interesting, but it kind of remains to be seen what kind of processing that means. Like, is it creating pre-rolls or doing packaging, or is it more kind of value-added products like edibles, topicals, extracts?
Right.
But they have to sell. The grower has to sell to the processor, but a grower could have a processing license.
Right.
So they could literally sell to themselves. To sell to them.
Yeah. On paper, it goes through another entity's hands, but it's staying within your own regime because you own both papers, basically. Right. But what does the processing license entail? I think that's what Lisa's saying is, what does that mean? What is that going to cover? Are you doing pre-rolls? Is it all about the packaging schematics and all of that kind of stuff? What is the processor's job?
Yeah.
Also, the question is, can processors source from different micro producers? Because processors can process a maximum of 600 kilograms. So if your harvest is under 600 kilograms, could you potentially source from more than one micro producer is another question.
Right. Yeah, if I want to make it up to my 600, this guy's only giving me 5. I want to find somebody with another 100. Yeah,
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of kind of small intricacies like that, but most growers seem to be not satisfied with the 200 meter square allocation.
Yeah, it's kind of small, right?
I mean, it's pretty decent. It's like 2,000 to 4,000 square feet, but I think most kind of mid-sized growers are looking for 10 to 20,000 square feet. So, it's not perfect, but it definitely helps a lot of people to have that.
Yeah, because it costs a lot of money for a micro grow. For when you're talking about, we had a discussion about this afterwards. Now I don't know what the information on this is, but do you have to go to the same extent that legal producers are going and putting in, like the electronic door locks and the security systems and the vaults and all of that for a micro grow?
It won't be the same, but even for licensed producers, now there's not the requirement to have a vault or cameras. Like, they've lessened the requirements for licensed producers, but also for micro grows, it won't be as harsh. And you can also do outdoor, which is super cool. Unfortunately, a lot of the outdoor grows in BC are bigger than 200 meters square, so I think that's where reality doesn't necessarily match with what the regs are, but I'm sure there's ways around it. Creative enough.
Outdoor, that's a tiny space for outdoor for sure.
Unless you're growing trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they're looking at allowing that, aren't they, the outdoor grows?
Yeah, so you wouldn't require the heavy, stringent restrictions then for security, because you're not going to have swipe cards on an outdoor grow.
I'm sure there will be some security measures, but there's going to be like a whole new industry of, people helping all of these smaller grows and smaller microprocessors comply with the regulations and kind of find ways to work together to bring products to market.
Now, what did you think of that packaging announcement? They wanted it on a pretty plain-looking packaging, and as what I'm seeing on Facebook and other social media sites is that quite often already the black market has got the clear packaging, plain packaging already wrapped up with the sandwich bags. But
that's pretty much as plain as you can get, right?
That's pretty plain.
I'm literally looking at some baggies right now with just like plain labels, and it's pretty plain packaging. You've got the name of the strain, how much is in it, and that's it.
Yeah, how much more plain do we want it than we already have it? What do you think of all these warnings?
Well, I think that the warnings are a little bit overkill, but at the same time, it's pretty clear that government's regulating dried flower like tobacco. So anything that's smokable, the marketing restrictions will be more extreme like tobacco, but I'm hoping that for other products, like, for example, we can see that vape pens won't have the same extreme marketing restrictions. So I imagine that once edibles and beverages and topicals come online, that they're not going to have as extreme warnings. And also for medical, it seems like medical products, it's not as extreme. But I think a lot of licensed producers have been really pushing the boundaries for marketing. So instead of complying to any of Health Canada's regulations, they're kind of violating a lot of them. So, I'm sure that licensed producers think they're being disruptive, but I feel like partially the government's reaction to the packaging laws is because people were doing really extreme things, like putting cartoon characters on packaging or, getting Snoop Dogg to be your brand rep when, it's been said that this won't really be approved. So I not that I'm like against celebrity marketing or, all the things that we wish we could do that, alcohol is allowed to do. But I still think that, we have to be reasonable with our ask for government. And if government wants to have, better marketing regulations for less harmful products like vaping and edibles, I'm totally down for that. And, so what if our weed doesn't look sexy? We still have access to it. We can buy it in a store come legalization. So, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. It could be way worse.
Oh, it could be way. We can always be worse. There's no question about that.
I don't need my cannabis to look sexy.
They'll probably be a lot better than the government weed we used to get in the MMAR. If you think about it, it's like, to use that as a baseline, this is like a million times better.
Yeah.
I got one of those gold envelopes that came with all that dust.
Yeah.
I've been looking for
way
a
back in the day.
Yeah.
Contaminated with heavy metal.
The size of a breadcrumb.
Yeah, heavy metal contamination and all, right? Yeah. It's wonderful stuff, isn't it? Yeah, we've come a long way, for sure. We've got a hell of a long way to go still. The heavy restrictions, a lot of people are not happy about them. The packaging and stuff like that, people are trying to do what they can to squeeze in what they want in their logo because the government is allowing logos. So if you can squeeze in all the information you want in a logo, then you're good to go. There's options.
There was a few pictures or posters that were made that were posted on social media where they comparing, the new labeling and the packaging, comparing it to alcohol drinks and the alcohol. I can't think of those sugary drinks.
Yeah. The fucked up ones that killed a teenager?
Yeah, that's the name of them.
Yeah.
They're literally called fucked up.
Yeah. When you look at it upside down, it says fucked up, right?
So, here they're worried about what's on a cannabis package, but yet, they're allowing something that says fucked up on it.
Yeah.
But killed someone.
Yeah. I mean, but oh my God, beware the evil weed. You mentioned, Lisa, that you were hopeful that there would be less stringent health regulations and warnings and so forth on future products as they're rolled out. We mentioned vaporizers and edibles and that kind of thing. How do you see that going down? I'm trying to wrap my head around how they're going to do this, and maybe you can help me with that. Because right now it's legal producer product only, right? So, craft cannabis is somewhat going to be able to get on board with this by getting, your production license and being able to sell. But they're not allowing edibles. None of the licensed producers are making any extract products at all, except for the low grade, low THC, low CBD oil that's basically good for nothing. That's about all you see coming out of the LPs. So as far as creams, edibles, tinctures, even vaporizing oil and vaporizers of the future, where would those products come from?
Those products would come from licensed regulated companies. So some of the licensed producers have licensed dealer licenses, which allows them to handle controlled substances that aren't approved by Health Canada yet. So, a lot of research and development is happening on that level. There's also a lot of deals being done in the cannabis space. So, because there's all these huge publicly traded cannabis companies with, tons of money from the stock market, they're really concerned about kind of just acquiring new brands and products to boost up their stock. So a lot of deals are happening with U.S. companies, with, gray market companies. Obviously in the States, cannabis is illegal federally. So technically, American companies that deal with product are black market. A lot of the licensed producers have stigmatized existing edible products on the Canadian market by calling them black market. I prefer to call them gray market. So depending on how you look at it, there's opportunities for these companies to get licensed either by partnering with a licensed producer or waiting it out and applying for either a processing license or a microprocessing license. And there are licensed producers now who have really creative business plans that aren't just focused on cultivation, because that's just legalization 1.0, and they're focused on extraction. They're focused on, fat-soluble and water-soluble production of cannabinoids at pharmaceutical levels where it's GMP certified. They're ready to, export it to all corners of the world that are open to medical marijuana. So I think while the rec market in Canada is going to be huge and craft will, be able to fill that gap, A lot of Canadian licensed producers are gearing up for export to Europe, to Australia, to Latin America. There's lots of options in terms of, the different markets and channels as we get closer to legalization.
Is there going to be enough product left over with all of these people consuming all of these products that the licensed producers are trying to produce? Is there going to be left anything for patients?
There's going to be a huge surplus of cannabis coming. Obviously, when we first hit recreational, there might be a deficit of product because there's only so many licensed producers that have their sales license approved. But once we hit legalization, every Canadian is going to be able to grow for plants. Obviously, the medical, personal production or designated grower, ACMPR licenses still exist. And on top of that, you're going to have craft grows. So basically what the Canadian government has implemented is every licensed producer's nightmare for domestic market, and that, these large multinational corporations like Big Ag are going to be competing with small craft farmers that, a lot of consumers are looking for that type of product, and retailers are also wanting to stock that on their shelves. So, the Afrias of this world, which focus on having the lowest cost per gram, are going to have a lot of trouble competing with, what if Remo gets licensed? That's totally a possibility.
Yeah.
There's so many kind of small craft growers that have a huge following that, rivals U.S. brands like Jungle Boys in terms of, people watching them on YouTube for so many years and being completely dedicated to them, or even knowing the strains they've created, like Zombie Kush, or I think Remo has his own Kush.
Now, when you mentioned, I just want a quick question. When you mentioned craft growers, you're talking about the micro growers, like people that would have a micro cultivation license, or will there be a separate craft license?
No, there's not going to be a separate craft license. So I mean small growers. So I mean, you could define that as micro, which would be up to 2,000 square feet by government definition. But I think a lot of licensed producers also meet that threshold of craft, and some licensed producer licenses are smaller than some MAR licenses. So it doesn't necessarily mean micro versus licensed producer. It's really hard to define craft because, obviously
I look at
in the
craft
beer
as being a small producer is really what I look at it as.
Yeah.
So
in the future, then, I mean, for companies, I mean, a lot of the dispensaries, most of the dispensaries, they're housing products right now, currently, that are made by a multitude of producers that we have across this great nation of ours. There's so many people doing wonderful products, and they're all for sale at our local dispensaries. Come legalization, any dispensary that is going to be licensed by their province, some of the provinces are allowing, independent dispensaries and stuff. So they will continue because they've gone through the licensing process and everything. But everything on the shelves changed that day to only stuff that's allowable by the LP. So all the products that we're used to getting will disappear. So as they come back in while they're allowable, you're saying the people that are there now have an opportunity to apply for a license to sell their stuff to the legal producers, and legal producers some of them are backing these smaller ventures then?
I'm going to lose track of that question, but the first part of the question around the dispensaries, they will have to take products off the shelf and focus on licensed products. But a lot of these kind of gray market craft producers are going online. So while their storefront dispensary might not have all the products consumers know and love, consumers can still go online and access those products. An example of that would be, medpotnow.com, one of the best dispensaries in Vancouver. They carry edibles, extracts, everything that you can think of. Once Vancouver came out with licensing, they opened Aura dispensary, and they're also a founder of Aurora, which is a licensed producer. So
That's
I
right.
remember being a member of MedPot Now, getting warnings saying, legalization's coming for, we're going to be a licensed producer, come over with us, come switch. But at the same time, medpotnow.com still exists. You can still access all the products. Aura dispensary exists. It's compliant with, local Vancouver bylaw. It doesn't sell edibles. It sells vape pens, oils, topicals, flour, but not any edibles. But you can still go to medpotnow.com and buy them. So I think that we're in a transition. So the first year is going to suck for retail. There's only going to be flour available, but obviously online you can access everything. And, the first year will be a cannabis cup for flour. Not everyone's going to win the cannabis cup. Some producers are going to do really horribly. They're going to have production problems. They're going to have bad reviews. And I think the second round of legalization, where you have all the craft producers that we know and love getting licensed, getting back on the shelves, that's when we're going to have like real, true peak legalization, and there will be a lot of competition on the market. Obviously, licensed producers have the ability to export to other medical markets. So, whatever we don't consume as recreational consumers will go somewhere else, will be processed to oil. But in terms of what the market will look like, a lot of people have, projections in terms of, the financial success of their companies. But once we start being in the real market and, companies will be evaluated based on their performance versus their potential growth, I think that, we'll have companies that will win and companies that will lose, and craft will always win in that competition.
For sure. Couldn't have said it better, Lisa. That's awesome.
Okay, I got to jump in here.
Yep, I knew you were.
Now, Lisa, we have to go for a break, and we haven't even gotten to the Sensible Ontario stuff. We'll get into that right after we get back from the break. But during the break, we're going to run your public service announcement for Sensible Ontario. We're going to start running it here at the Pace Radio Show. Can you give us a little information on it before we go to the break?
Sure. Sensible Ontario is a campaign for private retail and lounges that was founded by the Ontario Cannabis Consumer and Retail Alliance. It's a campaign to make cannabis an election issue, and we're really excited for the election in Ontario. We're trying to engage all political parties and be a nonpartisan force for change.
Good. All right. Excellent. Okay, so that commercial will run, and we'll get more into the Sensible Ontario stuff when we come back from the break. Tonight's bumper music is by a band called The Salads. You're going to hear a bit of a song called Weed and Wine, and we will get into some weed and wine as the show goes on. Like I've said before, we'd like to match the song to our guest. When we return, Kim and I will continue our talk with our guest, Lisa Campbell. This is the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing, not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as a daily medication, or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reef Reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with Cannabis and Coffee with Tamarawana. Then tune in and catch Pottawa with Russell Barth, who calls himself the world's angriest pothead. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and joint host Kim Cooper and Alicia Yashishin. No week would be complete without tuning into Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show, featuring Al Rapp and the 420 Radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at lifestyleradio.net or at our sister site, 420radio.ca.
Makes me
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
In 2017, the Canadian government announced that although recreational cannabis would be federally legal, its distribution and sale would be determined by individual provinces. Later that fall, the province of Ontario announced its proposed legal framework, that a subsidiary of the LCBO be the sole proprietor of cannabis in our province, essentially creating a one-party monopoly. This government-controlled monopoly could result in longer wait times, supply issues, and insufficient experience due to lack of proper consultation with the pre-existing industry. The provincial government believes this framework will restrict access to children and help eliminate the black market, but this proposed action will only push illicit suppliers further underground. Meanwhile, over the past 2 decades, there's been a growing industry of intelligent, savvy, and responsible cannabis entrepreneurs who have been working hard to provide access and education around the medicinal, therapeutic, and recreational uses of cannabis. We are Sensible Ontario. We're not new, but we're excited to meet you. Visit our website now and donate to become a part of Making Sense.
If you'd like to learn more about Sensible Ontario, go to sensibleontario.ca.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet, www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hey, we're back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live. Yes, we are live here at lifestyleradio.net. But if you can't always catch the live broadcast, you can always catch the podcast. They're available at Spreaker, as well as iTunes. And if you're down in the USA, you can catch us on iHeartRadio down in the US, as long as they haven't gone bankrupt. I think I've seen something about that in the news lately. Today on the show, we're joined by our guest, Lisa Campbell of Sensible, Ontario, and my joint host all the way from Northern Ontario. You can hear her laughing all the way from up north. That's Kim Cooper. Well, Kim.
Yes. Well, you know what? We got started on the show. We kind of dove right in, fucking head first there tonight. We did with Lisa. I mean, it's always great to bring our guest in on our news item and get their insights as well when you're in the thick of it the way that Lisa is. So that was fantastic. But in the whole process, we kind of neglected to introduce her. So let me take a couple minutes and let everybody know who we've got here with us tonight. Joining us tonight is Lisa Campbell. She is heading up the very brand new enterprise called Sensible Ontario. That's going in and canvassing and lobbying government in Ontario because of the upcoming election and cannabis legalization laws that are being planned for our great province. Lisa's been in the thick of things for a very long time and traveled throughout this great globe of ours on cannabis legalization movements, equal rights for this plant, equal rights for people that consume it, and been having an education all the way through it since the early 80s. She got started in it very, very, very early and has been all about the cannabis plant all over the place. Of course, founder of the Green Market Canada as well, which started in Toronto, advanced on to Newt and expanded into Montreal. So many enterprises, I can't even list them all. The very knowledgeable and the very wonderful Lisa Campbell. Thank you for joining us tonight, Lisa.
Awesome. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. You haven't been on the show. We were talking about that a little bit. It's been a while, like 15 months since we've had you on. It's been so busy.
Yeah, a lot has changed since then.
Yeah, for sure. Lots going on. Now you're in the thick of it with a brand new enterprise that you're doing along with Sensible Ontario. You're also expanding into a brand new market that's got a lot to do with weed and wine. We're going to talk about all of that and so much more. But first, I want to get right into Sensible Ontario.
Okay, let's do it.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about Sensible Ontario. I know the people that are sort of on your board of director, Tyler James, Imre Kovacs, Abby Roach, and of course yourself. Great team you guys got going there. What are the plans for Sensible Ontario?
Our plan is to make cannabis an election issue for the provincial election and also the upcoming municipal election in Toronto. So we have... in Ontario, they've introduced a monopoly, a government-run monopoly on cannabis retail, and we're really hoping that, we can have diverse cannabis retail that includes dispensaries, lounges, and we're trying to engage politicians to help them understand that what we're asking for isn't something radical. Other provinces like BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba are all introducing private retail, so we're hoping that, we can engage with politicians and show them that we're not asking for a revolution. We're just asking for sensible policy that includes everyone.
Excellent. So making it an election issue, Ontario, much as what they did over in BC.
Yeah, we're definitely following Sensible BC's playbook. So Dana Larson has been very, very supportive of our enterprise, our new activist campaign. So we were able to work with Sensible BC, use their Nation Builder platform, and access over 11,000 Ontarians who are all passionate about cannabis to push them to take action. So there's a number of actions that you can take on the website at sensibleon.ca. You can volunteer, sign up for volunteering at different events. You can write your local politician, whether it's your member of parliament or your member of provincial parliament, about lounges and also dispensaries. And you can also donate straight on the website. So right now we're in the middle of fundraising for a consumer poll that we're launching before 420. We're asking consumers across Ontario, if they support private retail. And we're also asking them questions around the government's proposed advertising regulations as well to see, if they think plain packaging is a good thing or not. We're expecting that voters are going to be outraged about this, and we're really hoping that we can use this data to focus on the swing ridings where, politicians have a lot at stake, and talk to those candidates and show them our data to show that, if they do come out pro-private retail, if they do support dispensaries and lounges, then, they're going to get support from their constituents, and they're going to have a better chance at winning the election. So we believe cannabis is an election issue, and that, if the Progressive Conservative Party can consider private retail, the NDP should be able to be a little bit more progressive on cannabis, especially considering BC and Alberta's policies. So, we're really hoping that politicians will wake up and kind of throw off the stigma of cannabis and make it a door-knocking issue as well.
Well, didn't we already see a bit of a flip-flop going on there with Doug Ford and the PC? Like, I realized it wasn't a policy, but he was speaking his mind. And then 24 hours later, he's going, "Oh well, we gotta do the alcohol, convert that over to private retail. We'll see how that goes." And then maybe,
he had to toe the PC party line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely flip-flopped. It was really disappointing to see. At first, Doug Ford was all about, the government shouldn't meddle with people's businesses. And then he basically said that he didn't even believe in legalization, that having the LCBO go slow, and that if it didn't work, we should keep it with the LCBO. So I think Doug Ford, a lot of people believe that he's pro-dispensary when really the opposite is true, and he said if it was up to him, there wouldn't even be legalization. So
I don't know. We had a discussion about this on the Reefer Reporters. I'm glad you brought it up. I kind of think that when Doug Ford said, he's all for, equal rights for dispensaries, and he'd like to see dispensaries operating and this and that and the other thing, I think we were hearing from Doug Ford. And then the next day when he said, "Nope, I don't want it. I want it under LCBO." I think that day we were hearing from the PC party. I think he got reined in by the higher ups, and he's like, "Well, you know what? That's not what our party platform is. So you need to shut the hell up." That's
every time we've met with the PC party, they're always like, "Don't you think that legalization's going too fast?" And we're no.
They're anti-cannabis, and I think they reined in Doug Ford. So I think when he was first speaking, he was speaking as Doug Ford, but the second time he was speaking as PC leader of the PC party, so to speak. I don't think the two are in sync.
So Sensible Ontario, now as far as Sensible Ontario, you're going to work with all the provincial parties to try to, help them form or suggest ways of forming how legalization should look here in the province.
Pardon?
Or you're just gonna like, as far as you're gonna lobby all the parties as far as the legalization of cannabis here in the province?
I'd say every party except for the Green Party, because they're totally on board already. So we don't have much work to do there.
Now, Andrea from the NDP, she didn't come out with her cannabis policy yet, has she?
No, she hasn't come out with her policy yet. They've made several statements saying that the Liberals' policy is a disaster, that 40 stores are not enough. Hamilton is Horvath's, home riding, so Hamilton is the most progressive. Yeah, she sees dispensaries every day. It's the most progressive riding. Also, her son works in a dispensary in Toronto, so she's very familiar with the dispensary issue. It's just a question on if she'll come out pro-dispensary publicly as a part of the platform.
Now, could they do something like they've been doing? Aren't they doing out west, where the other NDP governments are, where it's sort of a combination of retail and government?
That's what we're asking for, is a mixed model approach to cannabis retail, just like BC and Alberta. Unfortunately, we're not sure if the NDP will be open to it. OPSU, which is the union for government employees, including LCBO workers, is very much against the mixed model. They do support lounges. So I think the best chance we have in terms of private retail is for pushing that lounges can dispense. So we know that OPSU supports lounges already. It's very possible that, because they work so closely with NDP, they could as well. So we're just kind of trying to keep the options open so that there's some kind of mixed model. Because if we regulate cannabis like alcohol, then there should be venues like bars, like concert halls, licensed areas at festivals where, you should be able to consume whatever the product is, just like sensible adults.
So if lounges get the right to dispense, it would be like a bar situation. So you're going to consume what you purchase. You don't go in, purchase, and take home, right?
Well, I mean, ideally it would be single serve. In Spain, it's kind of like that. You can buy in small amounts in social clubs. But, if you have like a gram left and you stick it in your pocket, I don't think anyone's searching you on the way out.
Yeah, right.
But I think it really depends on government. And the Attorney General has said that the Alcohol and Gaming Commission is going to be working with municipalities to come up with policies for consumption spaces. So unfortunately, they don't have a mandate yet to come up with this policy. So we're not really sure if that would happen before or after the election. And if government were to change, if that, would shift as a priority. But it is the current Liberal government's priority. So we're hoping for progressive policy, no matter who the next government is. If the Liberals stay in power, if it's a PC government, we'll have to see how things turn out. But personally, I'm NDP, and I'm really hoping that they can come out with a progressive policy, and that all of this dialogue in the media around cannabis is making them, more comfortable to come out with a mixed model policy, just like BC and Alberta.
Yeah, because everybody seems quite happy with that. I mean, and we've all touted that for a long, very, very long time. There's room for everybody.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't even realize that BC is going to have government stores because they're so happy that there's dispensaries. Or even for Alberta, I've heard a lot of people refer to it as a private model, just like Saskatchewan and Manitoba, but Alberta is actually a mixed model because there's government retail for online, and then for brick and mortar retail, it's private. So you can have a combination. It doesn't have to be, private or public. There's middle ground there for sure.
I know a lot of people are nervous in Ontario with the strictly, government-run LCBO type model that they're going to have, given the length of time it took us to get beer in stores. I mean, we're just seeing that now in Ontario. So
100 years.
People are just like, wait a minute, we're not doing that again. There's no way we want to do that again. Private retail model, I think, is the way to go for sure. At the very onset, why should everybody have to wait? But perhaps using the vapor lounges as an on-site place for consumption and for purchase would be a crack in the door, so to speak, to get this moving faster.
I think there's potential for the Alcohol and Gaming Commission to come up with really innovative policy that can create room for everyone. But with the election in the middle of things, it's really hard for them to move because whatever they come up with, the next government could just topple. So I'm hoping that the government has more announcements leading up to the election, but it's hard to know because it's such a risky topic if they'll take any action before then.
Right. So everybody's on pins and needles waiting for the NDP platform so we can all make up our minds what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yep.
I think a lot of people that vote NDP are really scared that they're going to have to vote Conservative. So hopefully that's a wake-up call to the NDP that, you know, we are their voter base. Like Jack Layton's I think he's the first politician to ever be on Pot TV.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, great guy.
Literally,
I mean, that was a huge loss.
Yeah, it was a huge loss. But I think that, like, you know, Jack and Olivia, they literally live down the street from where I live now. And, you know, they were a really huge power couple for the NDP. But every party that they had in their backyard, you could smell cannabis. So for the NDP to shy away from cannabis when they've been the most vocal on it historically in terms of its decriminalization, I think is kind of criminal. And I'm really hoping they're going to make a strong statement because, you know, they just decriminalized all drugs federally. I mean, they voted that as party policy. So it would be really hypocritical to pass policy that's, you know, rooted in social justice, decriminalize all drugs, and continue to criminalize dispensary workers when, you know, Horvath's own son was a dispensary worker. It would be hypocritical. At the same time, because her son was a dispensary worker, other parties could attack her and say, oh, this is like nepotism, you're making policy based on, you know, your personal relationships. But I think with NDP government being so strong in BC and Alberta on the cannabis file, she would be Teflon and she would gain a lot of millennial votes for, you know, being pro-pot.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And the format is already there. We have BC. We have the model in front of us right here in our own country, right in BC. And then you look at other models like Washington, Colorado, and other United States that have gone independent states that have gone pro-legalization there. The model is there. So she's not standing out there naked and alone, so to speak.
For sure, she has support, and I would say that the BC and Alberta government are like the only ones prepared enough to implement legalization if it were to come July 1st. It's not going to come July 1st, but, you know, if it were to, those governments would be prepared for sure.
Yeah, and that's surprising with Alberta being one of them, I think. I'm shocked.
Well, that brings us back to the Conservatives again, right? Well, no, it's the NDP government out there, though. Yeah. Right.
It's NDP out there now. Yeah, they kicked them out. There's NDP there now. But that's Alberta coming out as one of the places that you may want to be if you're a cannabis enthusiast. That's shocking to me.
Well, we did talk about that on the Reefer Reporters, where there was a company moving from Toronto to Alberta because of that.
I mean, people are migrating from Ontario to Alberta because of pro-cannabis. What's going on here?
I think cannabis is the new oil.
Yeah. Well, at least we know we can make some with it.
Literally. Before, everyone used to move to Alberta to work in the oil sands, and now they're going to be working at Aurora's extraction lab.
Oh, too funny. Well, before we get into our next topic, we're almost at our break. Lisa's Sensible Ontario, great organization. What's going on next for them?
Well, we're gearing up for 420 season, so there's lots of community events. We're actually going to be doing a raffle on March 30th, which is really exciting. We've partnered with Trailer Park Boys, ironically.
Cool.
Trailer Park Boys are famous for their movie Don't Legalize It. But we're going to be raffling off Trailer Park Boys swag to support Sensible Ontario with Amy Anonymous. Location TBD. So we're going to have announcements about that. So that's a fun way to kind of give back to Sensible. We're launching our consumer poll, and then we're just going to be viciously hitting the streets to get our message out there, continuing to attend town halls. We've gone to a few of Kathleen Wynn's town halls in Toronto, Windsor, Hamilton. And we've actually kind of made CBC in terms of, you know, coming out with really hard-hitting questions around cannabis and holding her accountable. So we're going to continue to do that. We're coming out with our poll results right before 420. And we're even thinking about partnering with Consumer Choice Center to do kind of a LCBO mock pop-up where we're going to do kind of, you know, what a future store will look like, including plain packaging and, you know, the OCS logo perhaps, or some kind of parody version of it. So it's going to be pretty exciting. It might be popping up on 420 TBD. But, you know, there's lots of kind of fun things in the works. But we're just going to keep on, you know, hitting the campaign trail, engaging with politicians. And for the upcoming municipal election, there's quite a few of us in the campaign that are thinking about running for office, especially in downtown Toronto. There's been kind of a reshuffling of the wards. So as the Toronto population grows, there's new spots opening up on city council. So we're prepared to run in downtown Toronto in some of these regions that have been hit by dispensary raids and where patients have been really impacted, to kind of mobilize our people to have a voice at City Hall, because the progressive councillors on City Hall have kind of left us in the dust. No one's really advocated for dispensaries beyond, you know, kind of fringe politicians. So we're hoping that we can have our voices heard and, you know, come up with some sensible municipal policy that will include lounges and private retail.
Awesome. Wow. Busy times. Well, we'll dive into the last little bit of that when we come back from the break, I guess, and talk about some other things that's got to do with some wine in your life.
That's right. Okay, it's time for that break, as Kim says, and our listeners are going to hear some more of the salads and the song, Weed and Wine. When we return, Kim and I will continue our conversation with Lisa Campbell. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net.
Hey, this is Cheech. And this is Chong. And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio. What is it? Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time. 420 Radio? Ooh.
Hang up and try again.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
In 2017, the Canadian government announced that although recreational cannabis would be federally legal, its distribution and sale would be determined by individual provinces. Later that fall, the province of Ontario announced its proposed legal framework, that a subsidiary of the LCBO be the sole proprietor of cannabis in our province, essentially creating a one-party monopoly. This government-controlled monopoly could result in longer wait times, supply issues, and insufficient experience due to lack of proper consultation with the pre-existing industry. The provincial government believes this framework will restrict access to children and help eliminate the black market, but this proposed action will only push illicit suppliers further underground. Meanwhile, over the past 2 decades, there's been a growing industry of intelligent, savvy, and responsible cannabis entrepreneurs who have been working hard to provide access and education around the medicinal, therapeutic, and recreational uses of cannabis. We are Sensible Ontario. We're not new, but we're excited to meet you. Visit our website now and donate to become a part of Making Sense.
If you'd like to learn more about Sensible Ontario, go to sensibleontario.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Hey, welcome back. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live. Yes, we are live here at Lifestyle Radio. Tonight's bumper was from the Toronto area band known as The Salads, and you got to hear some of the song called Weed and Wine. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to get into that in this last segment. If you enjoyed their song, then I suggest that you look them up online. Today in the program, we're joined by our guest, Lisa Campbell, who is with Sensible Ontario, and my joint host, Kim Cooper. Okay, ladies, we got about 20 minutes.
All right,
a few topics to cover, so let's get at her.
Yeah, before we move right in, though, I want to backtrack just at the end of that. We skipped over really fast a couple of things that I just want to touch on and make sure our listeners are aware of. And that's at the end of this month, March the 30th, there's quite a bit going on. So tell us real quick, again, what's going on March the 30th, Lisa?
So March the 30th is the launch of the new Trailer Park Boys season. So the Trailer Park Boys will be doing a raffle for Sensible Ontario at the launch, which will be hosted by Amy Anonymous from SwearNet, who's also famous for Can Do and Milk and Cookies and all these things. So that's coming out on the 30th. We also have Women Grow Toronto on April 5th. So Sensible Ontario will be presenting our campaign there. And on April 18th, High Five, which is, run by one of my partners for Green Market, Sarah Gillies, she's putting together an event for the King family called 420 King on April 18th in the evening. So that's going to be a top secret venue that's announced the day before with 25 craft cannabis brands and all of the proceeds going to the King family, to help support them in this time of need. So lots going on for sure in the next month as we go into 420 season.
Absolutely. Busy time of year for everybody near and far going into 420. Excellent outpouring of support for the King family. Once again, another event that's being donated to them. Awesome to see. Love Sarah. We've had her on the show as well. Great lady. You guys are doing some fab things down there with the High Fives as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for your support.
Yeah. Hey, we support stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Now, where were we going after that? I've gone blank. Oh yeah, we were going. That's why I've gone blank. I must be maybe into the wine. Something about wine going on. I always seem to lose my memory when I get into the wine. That's my biggest problem.
That's why I don't drink wine.
You have got your foot in the door on another enterprise at Lifford Wine and Spirits Company. Tell us about what's going on at Lifford, Lisa.
Well, I just started with Lifford just over a month ago as the cannabis portfolio specialist. So this is something that I've been planning for a very long time, is to start a cannabis agency. So an agency is a company that kind of traditionally in the alcohol world works with producers, including craft producers and, bigger alcohol producers to help them get their products to market in retail environments, including government retail and as well as private retail. Because, across Canada, there's really diverse ways that the province are regulating. So since I was a young girl, my family's always been in the hospitality industry. And when I was a teen, I think that's around the time that my dad transitioned from being a restaurateur to, purchasing a small alcohol agency. At the time, it was just wine. So I have lots of early memories of Lifford wine previously, which was just, a 2-room operation in like a midtown office building, to the company it is today, which is national across Canada. We work in all markets, and now this is an opportunity for Lifford to kind of apply some of the services that they do for alcohol companies to the cannabis market, which includes distribution, includes educational events, similar to what we do at Green Market, as well as innovation. So creating kind of craft cannabis brands in the same way that we work with alcohol companies to find, really innovative artisans who are experts at their craft, pair them with some of the top producers in the world to create custom products for market. So, we've done this with wine, and I think we can apply that to other industries as we've grown our portfolio over the years. We started with wine, we added spirits, and now we're just adding beer, including Freedom 35, which is the Trailer Park Boys' new beer. Hence why we're doing this auction on March 30th. So, I think that there's a lot of parallel in terms of the work that I was doing previously with Green Market and the work that I will be doing in the future as legalization unfolds with Lifford.
And it would seem that Lifford is finally convinced that perhaps you've got something here, right?
Yeah, I think they always had their eye on it, but there's so much stigma against cannabis that, it was always a part of Lifford events previously, but never officially.
Right. Right.
It's kind of exciting. My dad is a long-time cannabis consumer. Kim, I know you met my grandma in Northern Ontario.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure my dad was getting trouble for having plants in the backyard as a teenager. I know when he was a teenager, he moved to Strathroy, Ontario, which is now has one of its first licensed producers.
Yeah.
So, I have lots of family in rural Ontario, Northern Ontario, as well as Southern that, have been probably involved in the cannabis industry for generations. But now it's a time where, we can finally come out of the closet and start participating in the legal industry, which, I remember when my dad turned 60, I promised him that we were going to legalize cannabis. And, now we're here and we're finally able to, come out as, as an industry that we want to do business in, which I think is really exciting after decades of prohibition.
Absolutely, and I love the title, cannabis portfolio specialist at Lifford Wine. That's awesome.
Is there any plans? I guess you probably have to wait for government regulations and stuff like that to have cannabis wines.
Yes, 100%. I just had a conversation today about cannabis wine on one of the many calls I've been having with licensed producers, licensed producer advocates, and licensed dealers. California has a cannabis wine. I think it's called Rebel Wines. It's de-alcoholized and infused with THC.
Melissa Etheridge's wine, isn't it?
It could be.
I think
I'm not sure she has her own line.
That. Yeah, she's got her own line.
Has a line.
Yeah, she's got her own line of wine. I met her last year at O Cannabis, and we had a conversation about it. And she can't export anywhere, and it's only in California because of the laws. She can't let it out cross over state lines.
Well, one of the things that we're experts in is importing wine. And, it'd be really easy to import a wine in bulk, and bottled, cellar it in Canada and infuse it and potentially de-alcoholize it. So some licensed producers are interested in that. Other people, personally, I don't like the taste of alcohol, so I'd prefer a sparkling infused beverage that, tastes completely different. Maybe like lemongrass or kombucha. Like tonight on the show, I've been drinking ginger kombucha that I bought at my local corner store. So I think in Toronto, there's so many innovative beverages on the market and so many mixologists. The potential for infused drinks is really enormous. And it's not the number one product in terms of sales in legal states. I think that it requires a culture shift. And for a lot of new consumers, beverages are easier to try than even smoking in 2018. So I'm kind of hoping in the future that we'll have a world where you can go to a restaurant and order, a cannabis beverage with your meal the same way that you can have a glass of wine. But, obviously there's still a long way to go before we can get there. But I think the biggest possibility of that is once we have the craft versus the microgrow licenses and microprocessing, if those licenses can sell direct retail, then, you could have a licensed craft retailer with infused kombucha on tap that can sell directly to consumers.
Yeah. Now, wouldn't that be sweet?
Yeah.
That's my dream. It's just like how you have a craft brewery where, all the beer is fresh and on tap. You should be able to, go to a cannabis bakery or, a kombucha bar or a coffee house.
Yep. Whatever bar, right?
Actually, I am looking out the window, literally looking out the window at a pub that is owned by a local craft brewery store. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Cannabis should follow the same Church Key. Church Key Brewery. They're here in Campbell. They're in an old church, and they've won several awards across the country for their beers. And they have this little pub, the Stinking Rose, across the road from it.
And why can't we have the same idea for cannabis and cannabis-related products? I mean, that would be fantastic.
I know that the Association of Municipalities in Ontario is looking at policy models that might reflect craft ability or like micro ability to retail. So I think there's hope for lounges. I think in the future there's hope for craft retail. And a lot of these policies actually benefit craft producers and not the licensed producers. So while we're all really happy about the policies, most licensed producers are crying right now because they know that they're going to have to compete with craft and that, their marketing is going to be severely restricted in the rec market.
Yeah, that's a big issue for them for sure. They've got a little bit more leeway right now with the patient-only access. They've got some leeway, but once it goes nationwide rec or non-medicinal, everything changes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yes.
Some people might stick to medicinal just to have, better packaging.
That was one thing I was going to ask. Is the medicinal packaging going to have to change as well?
I have to relook at the medicinal regs. I just remember that for medical cannabis, it's way less restricted than obviously for a rec smokable product.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I look at the Ontario logo. It's just pretty plain. you look at this packaging. It's just all white. Are we going to be walking into white sterilized stores? Just blah, nothing exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty boring, I think. A lot of people, thank God, will still be able to get the products that we all know and love from the companies that we use in our everyday lives. They're all making adjustments and making arrangements to have those products available online. A lot of people are saying the grand opening of these shops is going to be met with a big thump. Because nobody's going to use them. Do you see that way as well, Lisa, for the first year?
I think that people will use the stores. It'll be consumers that, maybe they lost their connection to their drug dealer 5 years ago and they stopped smoking weed, but now they have access to it in a storefront. There's going to be limited supply, so there's going to be a lot of lineups and, running out of product, which, you think that would make consumers unhappy, but having worked in retail cannabis, if you have like a limited edition product that sells out, it means that people will line up out the door for it. So it's not going to be perfect, but I don't think that consumers will necessarily reject it in the way that we think. I think that for some consumers, it will be life-changing in the same way that, when you walk into your first dispensary, that feeling you get where you're really attached to the brand, the people that are serving you, the strains that you're first trying. There's going to be so many new consumers where their first time having access will be in whatever storefront they create. So, and they are hiring people, with experience in dispensaries to work those jobs. So they're going to have training. It's not going to be just someone who's super stoned and you're asking them questions and they're like, yeah, it's fire. And you're like, yeah, but what else about the strain? So they'll have tasting notes. They won't be able to talk about personal experience or medical qualities of cannabis, but you're not going to get any misinformation at the same time, because a lot of the times in dispensary settings, I've heard patients being told crazy things like, oh, cannabis is a cure-all for everything. And, it's going to be different than what we're used to, and it's not going to be perfect for medical, but, it will be a regulated retail environment, which is something that we've never had before. It was like the Wild West here. There is no regulation. I think that the dispensary scene, while it was amazing to have access, it definitely wasn't perfect by any means. There was no quality control at all in terms of staff training, in terms of, testing the products that are on shelves. Legalization hasn't been perfect, and it sucks that so many people have had to be criminalized in the process. But I hope that whatever we get in the end will be better than what we have now, and that there will be room for everyone to participate.
Excellent. And room to grow.
It's evolving, right?
To grow, to evolve, to improve.
Yeah. We've got to take the first step somewhere, and it'll get better with every step we take, just like any child learning to walk. We're getting our legs, we're finding our way, but at least it's a start.
Well, you got to look at the Ontario's proposal. Originally wasn't even talking about lounges, and now they've already switched to getting the public input.
We are. It's evolving. It's evolving. We'll get there. We'll continue to protest. We'll continue to let them know what we want. We'll continue to get information from Sensible Ontario about the upcoming election and the people that are running and what we can do to get involved, and contacting our MPs and all of that to let our voices be heard. And like my cat's voice was just heard. So I mean, we're going to be heard, and we're going to let them know what we want, and hopefully we'll be able to be a part of this developing situation, at least in Ontario.
Yeah, and it might look completely different than any of us could ever imagine. Like, can you imagine if the government actually did like extensive public consultation where, you know, I think like this report that was just published on Monday with the federal consultation is a great example of that. You know, we have a chance to participate and shape what this policy will look like, and, you know, we'll all have different ideas of what it should look like, but in the end, it's going to be some kind of hybrid of what we want and what they want. So, you know, we have to be willing to compromise, and but also, you know, keep fighting for what we think is important.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Just because legalization happens doesn't mean the advocacy work stops.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
It will continue for sure, because you want to improve things, and there's always those on the other side who still want to bring prohibition in. So you still got to keep them back.
Yep. There's always a fight to be had for sure. And we'll get there. Eventually we'll get there, and all of this will be able to be put to bed. And hopefully in future generations, they'll look back and say, wow, really? They were all that fuss about this plant? Really? Wow. They'll be reading about it in the history books one day.
I'm sure they will. Okay, is there anything else you can tell us that you want to tell us about Sensible Ontario before we get into the shout-out?
Well, I guess I would end with a shout-out. So definitely go online to sensibleon.ca to check out, you know, what we're fighting for, to find out how you can get involved in your local community. We're going to be coming out with our volunteer engagement strategy very soon, nearing 420. So we want to get as many volunteers out as possible, you know, contacting their elected officials, contacting candidates to make cannabis an election issue. So, you know, we can't do it without our community. So it's up to all of you guys to check out the website and find out how you can get involved online.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
And the website, and one more time, is the website is at Sensible Ontario?
It's either sensibleontario.ca or sensibleon.ca. We're Sensible ON on all social media, including Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So if you go to Sensible ON, you can find out all of our latest campaigns, as well as check out our campaign video, which just dropped just this month. So definitely check out the video, share it on social media, and you know, spread the word and get your friends to also, you know, sign up online and start contacting their elected officials.
Excellent. Will you have any leaflets or anything, handout material that people could distribute through stores or anything?
That is a good question. I know that we're coming out with a policy brief outlining the key points of, you know, the Sensible Ontario platform. So I'll definitely bring that up to our communications committee to have some print materials, because we need those for storefronts, and we also need those for 420, which is coming up very soon.
Yeah.
And if you want to reach the masses as well, I mean, Northern Ontario, I'm here as well. I can distribute up to the northern communities as much as possible, and willing to hand out what I can at our 420 up here as well.
Yeah. I got a whack of stores here I can get it out to. So
awesome. Well, yeah, we'll definitely work on getting that to you guys. And in the meantime, definitely check us out on social media at Sensible Ontario.
Yes, do that, everybody, for sure. Okay, Kim, have you got a shout out?
I do. I have a shout out tonight to NIMCA, National Indigenous Medical Cannabis Association, and Legacy 420, Tim Barnhart and Association. These guys are fantastic. They give back to different members of the community so much. He has such a big heart. I cannot believe it. He gave a wonderful, wonderful donation to the Timmins 420 team this year. We're going to be distributing able to distribute party favors at 420 for all that attend the event. And we've also got an advertising budget now. So that's fantastic. Thank you so very much, Mr. Tim Barnhart and the people at Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga territory, just outside Belleville. Go and check them out for all your cannabis needs.
Yes, nice big place, nice new building that opened up there last July.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, just a reminder to let everybody know that I'm back next Wednesday with Alicia Yashishin and her special guest, Jamie Michelle. Addiction worker or counselor, I believe, something along that line. You can find Pace on the Pace Radio Show on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at Pace Radio, and we're on Instagram as Pace Radio Show. We can also be found online as pace-online.ca. And our thank yous tonight, as always, to our sponsors, the friendly and helpful folks at CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. They can be found at ccnexus.global. Our producer, Al Rapp. Also, a big thank you to you, Lisa, of Sensible Ontario, for coming to the program tonight and talking to our listeners.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been really fun.
You're welcome. And to my joint host, as always, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper. Thank you, Kim, for everything you do.
Oh, my pleasure to be here, Al. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Plus, a big thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning into the program. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.